The science and art of reading people, no matter where you come from vocationally, where you're at in life or business, you need to have this skill. Sales Ascender, Chris here. We are talking about the science and art of reading people today, and I love this topic because my life changed in 2014 listening to a Harvard business podcast, and it said this: all leaders and CEOs that have a higher EQ, emotional intelligence, they make 30+% more money. And that was enough for me to start reading at least one book or more a month. And I've continued that pattern for the last 7 years. And today's fellow Sales Ascender member on our Spotlight series today is an expert at the science and art of reading people. He's so good. In fact, you have to hear the story of the recent event he just did. It's going to blow you away. I love talking with him every time I get to, which is why I am so excited to now introduce him to you. Alan, how's it going?
Pretty good. Thanks very much for the invitation.
Yes, so excited to have you out, and for all the other Sales Ascender members to get to know you as well, because the stuff you're doing is incredible, and I know is going to impact others in a positive way, the way it's impacted me. Let's start. How did you even get into developing and building the skill of just reading people in general?
Mainly because I was dreadful at it. I'd been through a couple of divorces, a lot of relationships. I'd had business partners who had emptied the bank out over the years, and
Oh, geez.
I just realized one day I had to get better at reading people. I'd grown up not really being connected, being disconnected from people, pretty much a loner. And so I didn't develop a lot of skills when I was younger. And it was only in my later life, after I turned 50, that I really started putting a lot more into that area. Like yourself, you heard that comment from Harvard and you picked that up, and then you realized that and you moved on from there. And that's virtually what happened to me. I didn't hear something. I had my whole life changing at that after my second divorce. And that's when I had to really change the way I was doing things.
It sounds so a place of pain. There's just real life relationships that didn't go well, and you're like, you know what? I'm going to start figuring some of this stuff out. Is it okay to use the phrase emotional intelligence?
Oh, definitely. It's one of the most important things that we're not doing today, and we discount it because most people struggle with it. But it's one thing that we need more than anything else if you want a happy life and to have a secure business.
I can say anyone that's listened to me for any amount of time knows that I'm focused typically on one of three things at any given time. It's building a lifelong marriage, world-impacting family, and multi-million-dollar businesses. And this emotional intelligence phrase that we're playing with, focusing on this, changed my life. In the last 7 years, a lot has changed in my life for the better in terms of relationship and business. And so the stories you have shared with me have blown me away. I'd love for you to share some of those with our audience and fellow members. So let's just go with the recent one, because this is stuff you do all the time naturally.
Yeah, we were lucky just over here in Australia. We've gotten back into live presentations and live conferences, which is really fantastic, because we've missed a lot of that. And I was giving a workshop in Melbourne to 50 people, all dentists. And when we started, as I pointed out, when I do a presentation, because I'm a profiler, I like to show people what I do before I even get started. So I first of all walked out on stage and looked at the audience slowly, and then asked them if they wanted to know what I was doing, because they're all staring at me. And they said yes. And I went, okay, do I have your permission to tell you what I'm seeing? And they went, yes. And I just started profiling the people from the room, telling each one of them what I could see in their face. Like, I look at you and I know straight away that you're analytical. You need more information before you make a decision. But once you get it, give me the best way to do it and get out of the way and let me get it done. I know you like starting projects and variety in the things you're doing. So not doing the same boring stuff over and over. So I'm talking about everybody like that. Partway through the morning, I said, rightio, if people would like to work through some problems today as well, if they sent me an email with a photograph of somebody they're happy to have put up on the screen for everybody to look at, and I get them out the front and we work on some issues they were having. It could have been a work colleague, an employee, whatever. And I had about 15 emails pretty quickly. Through the day, I did a presentation on the master program. I brought one of the couples out who brought their, some would be about 1.5, 2 years old. And so I profiled the boy, told both of them how they could both change the way they spoke to match the way the child spoke and need to be spoken to. And then I went, right, now it's your turn. And I talked about how what I could see in their faces and where there would be some angst and difficulties in their communications and how to actually handle it. And at which point, watching the expressions on their face and the audience watching that as well, because that's what we're talking about, facial features and facial expressions. At the end of the day with the presentation I did, I had 30% of the room signed up for a master program.
God, like, that's so awesome. Like, to play in the business owner space, come on, results matter, and your results are speaking for yourself, which is why I love to pull other fellow Sales Ascender members out on the spotlight. We're real people solving real problems in a real impactful way. And it's like, what is working? What is happening? I'm kind of on this personal quest of like always keeping my ear to the ground. And I think a couple of the things, the results you're getting are number one, fantastic. And the impact, like as people continue to listen to us, watch us today, they're going to feel your heart. Like your heart is next level. Like the level that you care and how you show up in the world is very unique and very powerful. So you're talking to this family and the parental and child communication dynamic. I know many people, you also alluded to partnerships in business, and you've had a challenging dynamic, and experience there. Many of us listening and watching this have had to go through some freaking hard times with partnership. That is one of the biggest, most costly or most profitable relationships in our life. I would love to spend some time speaking to that as well.
Yeah, well, first of all, I know everyone's looking for a return on investment. And I go, when you're focusing on making the money, it's like chasing a fox. It'll keep running and it won't stop until you stop. And so you can be chasing sales all over the place, putting a lot of effort into it and getting nowhere. But if you change that to a focus on a return on relationship, then you'll naturally get sales. See, people don't buy from, I don't sell to people, but people buy from me. Simply because I build that relationship, I find out what they really need to know, they really want, why they want it, what's the emotional impact behind all of that. And if I spend that time with them and I'm focused on them, I can walk into any size group and feel comfortable without any, because I am an introvert. I like to be on my own to get my energy back. And so standing up in front of people, well, I remember the first time I got up in front of an audience, I fainted. And so... out cold, everything went white and I just went bang like that. And the very, very first time was when I was 16 years old. We used to work in one of the supermarkets while I was at school on the weekends, and the manager was a big German bodybuilder. I had to go down and see him at the counter, and of course I expected the worst. And he said hello, and as soon as he said that and I went to open my mouth, bang, I went down. And so I'm somebody, and I don't mind sharing all of this stuff, because at the end of the day, what people will get out of this is no matter where they think they are at the moment and what they can't do, yes, they can do. As they say, if you believe you can't, if you believe you can, then you're going to be right in both cases. But I just want to give enough evidence to people to say, hey, I was dreadful at this stuff, but now I'm regarded as one of the leading authorities on reading people globally. And so that was a lot of work, but it was mainly the fact that, yes, at first I focused on I needed to get out of my space and be more comfortable in myself, but then to be able to do that even more effectively by focusing on the other person. This is where the emotional intelligence comes in, being able to connect with somebody and really understand them, and they just naturally connect to you. How many trainers out there will talk about matching and mirroring people? Practice, do what they do, etc. Well, while you're doing that, sometimes it can become quite orchestrated and it becomes obvious to the other person that you're mimicking them. But when you really focus on them, if you've had a video running and looked at the video later on, you would realize that you matched them all the way through without even thinking about it. That's when they pick that up as genuine. And so the more you focus on the other person, the more you're going to connect with them every time.
Connection is huge. It's an intangible currency of what it creates, not just financially but emotionally, and the other piece that we're talking about. So everyone listening, this dynamic of emotional intelligence, okay, we like the idea. How do we get better at it? Like, what's the next step to practice it?
It's just a matter of stepping into it and practicing it. one of the things that drove it home to me was because my passion is to help people. And when I was talking to men in business, most of them were telling me that they were, I said, well, where's your major issue? And they said, we're confused. I said, confused where? And they said, well, we don't know our role at home because we always thought it was to go out and provide for the family. And now we're told that we're emotionally absent and we're supposed to be at home and everything else. And they're going, I can't be in two places at once. And at work, we've got all these gender issues. Where I used to be able to speak and that, and it was fine. And, you just, have a shot at the other person, they have a shot back, etc. And this is what men were like. Now we've got to be very careful about what we're saying. We're so confused. It was causing frustration and anger. And we know what that leads on to. And so I thought I needed to create a place where men could come together and tell their stories. So I created the Campfire Project. And in that, when by holding a space and creating the safe place where men could come and give themselves permission to tell their stories, it wasn't long before they got deep into their emotions. So the answer to your question is find a safe space, find somebody who will listen, not try and fix, because I believe the standard at the moment is somewhere about 17, 19 seconds from the moment that someone starts to speak that somebody else will try and give them advice on what to do.
Wow. 17 to 19 seconds. That's interesting. I haven't heard that.
It's ridiculous. And the fact is, there's a lot of coaches out there who fit into that category. And it's like, how much information you get in that time. So by holding somebody's space, then you'll find that they can open up. And this is what I say to men. If you want to practice this, find other men that you can do this with. You may find it a bit difficult with women at first because of your belief systems. But we brought women into the Campfire Project, and in 2.5 years, we brought them into the one-on-ones and the panel discussions that we were having, and men and women talking together, 400 hours of recordings now in 2.5 years, and not once has anybody been rude to anybody else. And the men are just raving about the women, about how they love them and how they're, they're loving the conversations. The women are doing the same thing in return. And so that was showing where we got to when you put the practice in. But to come back to the original question, it's sitting down, finding people that you feel safe around, who will just hold your space. So like in your case, I know that your aesthetic appreciation, how it feels inside. So if your partner is more dramatic and they need to express themselves to deal with stress that they're going through, that can cause someone like you and I've got the same trait to pull back into our caves. And, is it about us type thing? Whereas one statement to our partner would be, do you want me to fix this or do you want me to listen? Because I can do either. And if they say they want you to fix it, well, either you stuffed it up in the first place, so it's your responsibility to fix, or they believe that you have the power to fix whatever that problem was that's external to you, or they just need you to sit, hold their space and let them vent. And if they say, I just want you to, sit and listen, then you know that it's got nothing to do with you. If you care for your partner, you just let them vent. And so that's how we practice it. We work out, create a safe place. Because when I'm sitting with all these people and they're telling their stories, I don't take any of that on. And I've heard some horrific stories that people have told me, but I don't take it on because I know that it's important to hold their space. They need to be able to express themselves. And in that, they're getting their own healing. They don't need my advice. They don't need me telling them what to do. And so by doing that, they can open up, and they really open up deeply. And that's the best advice I can give to anybody. Find somebody who will do that for you.
There's multiple things you mentioned in there that I'd really like to unpack. One of them is a phrase that you used multiple times, which is holding the space. Can you go a little deeper on that?
Yeah, we'll see. If we see it on Facebook every day, there's 3 levels of empathy. The first one is cognitive. I can see you're in pain. A torturer needs that. A bully needs. Otherwise, they're not going to get their jollies. The next level up there is emotional empathy. I can feel your pain. But the next level after that is compassionate. So I can see your pain. I can feel your pain. But now let's fix it. Let's find a solution. Now, on Facebook, we see it every day, people jumping in and taking sides because they feel someone else's pain. It resonates with them. They don't want to feel the pain. So it's not about the person who have put the problem up in the first place. It's all about them now wanting to get out of that feeling of pain. So they attack other people. They escalate the problem. The old story of a problem shared is a problem halved. No, a problem shared and dealt with is a problem halved. A problem shared and not dealt with is a problem multiplied. And we see it
Yep.
escalate. You know, in
Yep.
Australia, we recently had a council worker at one of the schools get up. She came in, ran a video, which is all about gender equality and things, and then got, I think it was year 7, which is around about 14, 15-year-old boys, got all the boys to stand up and apologise for being male, white and Christian. And there was a big hullabaloo over it. Now, that in itself was child abuse. It's inappropriate. But next thing you know, the media is blowing it up and talking about parents suing the school and all this other stuff. And so they're feeding the fire. Now, I know the media does that because that's how they sell their media. But for all those people to get involved, this was the emotional empathy going berserk. Now, my whole thing would be, if you want to fix that problem, yes, you send her for counselling because there's something that she's not dealing with that she imposed on everybody else. But you then push that out to the rest of the public and say, hey, that behaviour is not appropriate because that is child abuse. So if we want to come together, that's why I created the Campfire Project with the hashtag We Together, because separate groups fixing little problems like Me Too, Men Too, which were all absolutely necessary at the time, jumped in and fixed problems, but now they become the problems of today because they're looking at each other saying, you're responsible. No, you're responsible. But when you stand shoulder to shoulder looking at the problem, you're saying, right, we're going to work together on the problem, not look at each other as the problem.
Yeah, a big shift there. Big shift there.
And so that's where the emotional stuff comes in, because in that, we're going then from the emotional empathy, the next level is, okay, I can see a problem. So what I've just talked about is the compassionate empathy, seeing where the problem is, finding the solutions and moving forward so that everybody can then move on. That's the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you for diving a little bit deeper and holding the space. You do an excellent job of doing that in the Campfire Project that you were referring to. So like if you guys have not seen this yet, please go check out Alan Stevens, the Campfire Project. Thank you for having me out. I got to go through this exercise. He does an excellent job of creating a really, what I would label a safe environment. And you can, play with different thoughts and not have like that immediate judgment. There's a lot of room for discovery in a very healthy and productive way. So you've done an excellent job of creating that space. That is a great outlet and resource that everyone listening to this can go to. Look up Alan Stevens, the Campfire Project. And that the other thing that you mentioned, that one question, would you like me to solve this or would you like me to listen and you just support you here? That one question in my marriage has been a very helpful question. Like, and because I would hear kind of that dynamic and I was like, can we just ask, like, hey, which one would you prefer right now? Oh, just listening. Got it.
Yeah.
And then
let's balance that as well. If you're, let's turn it around the other way now. Your partner. Yeah. Your partner who needs to express themselves when they're stressed also needs to know what's going on because that's part of their personality. Whereas both you and I, being aesthetic appreciation, if we've got an issue and working on it, we just want to be left alone to work on it. So when somebody's asking us what's going on like this, we're just pulling further and further away to our cave. And they're chasing us like a Benny Hill chase across the room. And the end result is they go from, I'm worried about you, to almost, are you having an affair? What's going on? What are you keeping secret? And they create a problem in their own mind. So with the dramatic appreciation person, I say, right, you've got 2 questions and a statement. The first question is it anything to do with me? And if you and I said no, then the answer to the next question from them would be, is it something that I can help you with? If the answer to that is no, statement time. I know you need to work on this on your own. So I'm going to leave you alone to do that. But when you're ready, come and talk to me. Now, at that point, instead of us pulling back and going, just leave me alone and getting angry about it, we're going, oh, thank you very much. We solve whatever it is. And we go back and we explain to them what it was all about. And we can even get involved in talking about how we solved it, which is always, we like to show when we've been successful at something, we like to celebrate it and show other people that they've been successful. And our partner then gets that communication. So they've been dramatic and want to express things. Now they've got a conversation with us. So they've looked after us and we've been able to look after them in return. It's simple stuff.
I love that you articulate that it is two-sided. Every relationship is. And so you use a couple phrases like categories. How do you categorize people? Like, as you're reading them, oh, you're in this bucket, you're in this bucket. What are those categories that you label?
The whole thing is there is really no buckets, because when people do, say, psychometric profiling, Myers, DISC, what do you call it? Enneagram, all the strengths, Kobe's, all the other systems, you're putting people in boxes. Now, I don't know about you. I don't like, if you put me in a box with a whole bunch of other people, I'm going to be looking at them and going, I'm not the same as them. Everybody on the planet's got their own personality. Everybody is uniquely different to everybody else. And therefore, everybody has a gift if we go looking for it and if we can find it. And so I realized that because everyone was differently, the more I could understand them without asking any questions, because using a DISC profile or Myers-Briggs, you have to wait for the person to sit down, fill out a questionnaire to know their personality. Or with DISC, we talk about observing the person, but we also know if you're having a good day or a bad day, you're going to look at somebody and interpret them differently on those two categories. So I needed a system that took out the emotions, their education level, their culture, their understanding of words or anything else, their gender. Because whenever I worked with that and I analysed the person later on or watched their behaviours, quite often they didn't fit the profile that we were getting. And where this first came from for me, I was working with a group that taught currency trading here in Australia. None of the students made any money, so they brought me in to find out why. And I said, well, it's got to be the personalities. We put them through those different testing systems. And quite often when we started training people, and especially when they put their money on the table to go live trading, they didn't fit their profiles. And I needed something different. And I realized that put it this way, if you lift weights, you're going to build muscles. And everything we feel inside, we know that we express outwardly. That's why body language works and the micro expressions work. So if you think in a way over and over again, like I'm doing this now, I'm pulling my eyes together and concentrating deeply, I'm going to build ridges, crevices, and different things on the face. So the repetitive movement of muscles while I'm thinking creates ridges and crevices on my face that gives away the nurture traits to my personality, the traits that I've created in response to my environment. But there are also traits that are passed down for your parents in the DNA. So the actual nature traits themselves. So you've got nature and nurture. So your face, therefore, over time, starting out is a small map at first as a young child, but gets a bigger and bigger map with more definition as we get older. And so even a young child, I can profile and pick up the traits that were passed down from the parents and the differences between the two parents. I can see that in the child as well, which therefore makes that child different. I'm working with about 68 traits in total that I'm looking at. 39 of them you're either at one extreme or the other or in between. And 29 of them you either have it or you don't have it. So the combinations there is 3 to the power of 39 times 2 to the power of 29. And being only retentive, I got the spreadsheet out on the computer and big screen, and I worked out it's 2 with 27 characters. It's massive. And so it proves that there are no two people that are identical on the planet. But if somebody walks around the corner from, say, 10 feet away from me or through a doorway, within the time that they take to walk past me and I'm walking towards them, I've picked up there's 7 or 8 major traits, the ones that stand out the most. What the first one, what it is, what the second one is, how does it moderate or enhance the first one? What happens then when you put the third one together? So you go and looking at the major traits, ones that are right at the extremes. You got the bulk of the person's personality as they walk past you in the street, and you haven't asked a single word.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So I just think about, applying that. It's like if you had that type of insight, depth on the people that you work with on a daily, weekly basis, on people in your community, in your marriage and family. And, I just kind of go through and this different type of insight, frustration, miscommunicate, like how much frustration is created from miscommunication, which is just not understanding. And, you said it's a powerful thing earlier where it builds on itself. And now we're all, puffed up and, frustrated, and it turns to anger, turns to all these other, harsher emotions over such a small thing. I've used a phrase that has served me well in life. and my business partners have heard me, my best friend, my wife, this phrase, I say, know that I always want to know. And if I don't know, there's nothing I can do about it.
That's it.
And it's this simple, at least in my mind, it's simple. It's basically an open door. It's saying, I don't care how small it is. If you're ever in your head, know that you can always just come and ask me and talk to me, and I won't get mad at you. It's like, it's kind of almost like a game. The rules of the game is I'm not allowed to get mad at you. I'm not allowed, if those emotions happen, just give me a second. I just gotta go process something, bro. But in that, it's holding, to use the words you were using earlier, holding that space of creating a very open and honest and vulnerable place. And sometimes, it's like, another phrase we use, I'm throwing these out there so you can kind of speak to these in a second and critique these a little bit. Another phrase that I like to use, and this one I did not coin. A shout out to good friends of mine, Dustin and Hope. They, at least I heard it from them, came up with this phrase called Big Sky. It's Big Sky, meaning, for example, Alan, if I'm talking with you right now, is like, hey, Big Sky me on this. Meaning, I don't know what I'm about to say. It might be offensive. It might be really dumb. I don't know, but it's kind of a leading indicator of, hey, I just need someone to listen and, not judge me, give me some space here. Now, with Big Sky, you can't, don't abuse it. You're being respectful of it's not an excuse to say whatever viscerally or fleshy you want to just say. You walk into the space with love, walk into the space with respect. But it's also just, a place of being honest. So Big Sky and kind of that initial phrase, what are some, I'm curious to hear your take on those.
Well, one of the sayings that I've really loved from one of your coaches over there, John Wooden from UCLA, his statement was that the most important thing you'll ever learn is the next thing you learn after you know everything. Now, that's focused towards knowledge and everything else, which is why it's been one I've lived all my life. Because I've always been a full, as I say to people, I might be a part-time teacher, but I'm a full-time learner and will be learning until the day I die. As I'm approaching, I'm 1 year off 70 now, so it's I'll still be learning.
You're almost 70?
Yeah.
I would not have guessed that.
Yeah, I was 69 last month, so there you go. And
wow.
So the time's moving on. But with that, I realized that same thing applies to relationships with people as well when you think about it, because we say that, oh, you made me feel this way. No, they didn't. We chose to feel a particular way because of it's all about us. It's not about the other person.
So we get to choose how we feel?
Yeah, we get to choose how we feel. I'll give you an example of, here's a situation. My first wife, when she left me with 3 boys to raise. I was 4, 11, and 12. Now, I had all the anger and everything else, but as I was growing up, I realized that if they didn't respect their mother, they would end up having broken relationships themselves, because how many couples, when they break up, they bag their partners. And the thing you do when you bag your partner is you destroy your own relationship with the children, because if it's a woman, say a mother, complaining about the father, their sons, well, you're telling your sons half of them is no good. So you're telling your sons they're no good as well. And the end thing is I will end up disrespecting you. It's the same thing as a father bags the mother, then the girls will feel the same. But they're also telling their sons that there's no good women out there. So that when you bag each other, it's really child abuse if your children are hearing any of this. But the whole process is that when my first wife left, I built a relationship with her so the boys would respect her, and that really impacted on our relationship and their growth, and it turned into 3 young men that love and respect. But about, what was it now? My oldest one now is 42. When he was about 35, he'd moved out, got married and everything else, and I'd had a spare room. His mother came to me and said she needed somewhere to stay for 3 months. Could she be a lodger? Just pay the rent and everything else. And I went, yeah, as long as it's, your life is separate to my life. I run my business from home and everything else. For 3 months, that's fine. Well, she moved out 3.5 years later. And people go, how in the world could you do that? Because virtually by saying, when she left, was saying to me that I'm no good as a provider. That's what she virtually says by
Mm.
walking out. And so with that, I had all the reason to hate her, and that would have been my choice. But I decided that all the way through from when she'd left, my boys were the focus. So doing things
Mm.
like building relationships and everything else with her, because I did that for them, not for her. But then in later life, I thought, well, I can hate her for having walked out, or what could I love her for? And that was that she gave me 3 boys that I love and respect that I never would have had under any other circumstances. Because if I'd been with another partner, it would have been different children. And I love the boys that I've got. She gave that to me. And therefore, I could love her for that, not be in love with her, but love her for that, and therefore co-live with her, coexist over that period of time without any problems. That was all a matter of choice. It was a choice. I could hate her, or I could get over it. Because you hate somebody, it's like taking poison hoping they'll die. It doesn't work. And so everything we have in life, if they hit us with a brick, okay, we're going to feel that pain and everything else. But if they say something or they do something that's external to that, how we choose to respond to that is our choice. And so once you realize that, we are empowered if we take that responsibility on and say, no, okay, that was my choice. So once I understand that, I realize in a relationship, I don't know what they're feeling yet. So I need to take some time. I need to investigate it. Instead of responding to something they might have said, taking it personally, I go, what is it that caused them to say that? What's behind that?
Yes.
And taking that little bit of time to do it. And that way I can give them that space and I can be open and then listening to them without then getting all emotional about it myself and then causing a problem. I'll just hold that space for them again. It's not about being over generous or anything else. I'm looking after me in that process as well. I'm making sure that my emotions don't upset me, because the thought we have creates an emotional response. Those emotional responses are chemicals in the body. Negative ones are going to attack your organs. Positive ones are going to feed your organs. And so I want to have positive thoughts wherever I possibly can, so that the negative ones aren't running through my body causing problems to me.
What's so frustrating and yet so powerful is what we focus on grows.
Exactly.
And so, the dynamic and example that you're sharing in relationship, with your first wife and the biological mother of your kids, you can choose to be frustrated, and there's emotion, there's stuff to deal with and process, and finding a way to anchor on and process it in a way of what a big word that I was hearing as you were saying that is gratitude. Here is what, and you were choosing to focus on the parts that you were grateful for.
That's right.
And because of that choice that you had to make day after day after day, years later, co-live and continue to make that choice, right? That's a remarkable story. I didn't know that. And continuing to make that choice, that changed the generations that will come from the legacy of your family.
That's it.
Significantly. What you focus on grows, and it's very powerful, I think, sharing that story and what you chose to focus on.
And so this is one of the reasons, as you said, I don't look like I'm near 70. But if I had the different approach to things, I guarantee I'd look a lot older right now. And so
I would imagine so. You don't look 70. That's why I was like, what? Yeah.
So it's a case of, as you said, it's what we focus on and what we're going to get more of. It's like, well, with the profiling I do, and people say, can I learn this? And I go, well, as a child, except for a small percentage of children, every child was a profiler. Every child could read facial features to recognize who was friend, who was foe, who was somebody they knew or they didn't know. They could recognize their body language and emotions, to know their facial expressions, to know what their emotions were, whether they were safe to be around or not. So do I recognize a person? Yes. Oh, it's somebody I shouldn't be around. They're angry. God, I better get out of here. Somebody I know who, is a friend, etc., but they're angry. There must be something going on. Can I walk towards them and find out how I can help them? So we were doing that as children. But as we got older, we get involved in sports. We're going to school. we're doing all these different activities. And as we're growing, we're experimenting with different ideas, building our confidence and everything else. And we're not building that muscle. We're not working it anymore of profiling and reading the other people. And so what you don't focus on atrophies, and what you do focus on grows. So we get more efficient at sports and everything else, but we lose the skill of reading people. And then it's like, as a person who was fit when they were younger, by the time their kids are grown up and they've get to a certain age, they might go, probably time I got fit again, lost a bit of this weight that I've been carrying around the middle for a while, and, tone up. So you go off to the gym and you find a personal trainer to help guide you through the exercises to get the benefits as fast as you possibly can. Yeah. When it comes to teaching people how to read people, that's all I am, as a personal trainer that teaches people what they already knew as a child. So everybody has this skill. And that was the only reason I was able to pick it up. I didn't know that I had the skill because of everything that happened in my younger years. But once I got into this, it really started making a lot of sense for me.
This experience, there's a lifetime of experience here, and you've made an effort to put some of this thought to paper, so to speak. And this is me leading the charge. This isn't Alan asking. I wanted to share his site with you. I wanted to share alanstevens.thinkific.com, and it's the science and art of reading people. I have no financial tie to this. Just being upfront with everyone, I'm doing this on my own accord. Alan didn't ask. And anyone in the Sales Ascenders community, anyone that comes out on Spotlight always brings typically some type of value. And there's a free course, How to Persuade and Influence Behaviors of Others. A big part of this, and I don't want to misspeak here, Alan, but I think a big part of this really goes into our conversation, and also learning how to even persuade and influence your own behaviors. It's still like an awareness exercise. Hey. And something that I've talked about in different capacities of trainings and coaching that goes on is the hardest person on planet Earth to sell is ourselves.
Yeah.
And if that wasn't true, then why don't we all have six packs and healthy, great relationships and massively profitable businesses? I don't know that the problem is a lack of information. We can access more information easier than any point probably in human history. I think more of the challenge is having an awareness and understanding of ourselves and those around us. In fact, the $1 Trillion Coach, like Bill Campbell, I believe is the name. It's a really great book. Have you read that book by chance?
No, I haven't.
It was a fascinating book. He was the former CEO of Intuit, so QuickBooks and TurboTax and these software products. And he would be the coach of the Google executives. I'm forgetting the founders' names that everyone knows right now. And also, I don't know if he could coach Bezos, but someone high up in Amazon. He was in that sphere, and he had a really powerful takeaway of which is very on point of what we're talking about, what you focus on. And that's emotional intelligence. He said the people that are more aware and essentially play better with others and have healthier, stronger relationships. It's not causation, but it's insanely high correlation to their net worth. And some people will say your net worth is really what your I don't want to say it wrong. Your network is kind of in correlation to your net worth. And so there's some trend in there. There's some trend in there, and you're hitting. I feel like you do such a good job at pushing that button. And thank you for having that free course available and offering it to all the Sales Ascenders community.
On that point, just go a little bit deeper in why those people are making so much more money. One of the things that we'll hear is that take care of your employees and they'll take care of your business. It's that simple. And I put a post up with a picture of Richard Branson. I saw this thing floating around the internet, that statement in his picture. I put it up and it got a lot of responses. So then I put another picture up that because I then asked, all I did was ask the question, why is it then that 87% of people are disengaged in the workplace, which was the Gallup research from the Western world in 2018. In 2016, it was 66% that were disconnected, didn't want to go to work. 48% didn't want to go to work, and another 18% were telling everybody they didn't want to go to work. So those people who were whinging about it over time dragged everybody else down. So in 2018, it had risen to 87% of people didn't want to be at work. It's your clients, staff who talk to your clients. They're the ones that keep the clients happy and everything goes. So when you have emotional intelligence, you really connect with the people around you, have better relationships with them. And if you think about the partner you have, the love partner, you know that you feel loved when you feel that you contribute, that you have a place, that you belong, and all the rest of it. It's no different for your employees. So those managers and leaders, won't call managers, but leaders who have emotional intelligence are connecting with everybody around. They're building those relationships. That creates loyalty. The managers who haven't got that, they are working in the business. They've got no chance ever to work on the business. You can only work on your business when the people in the business are doing the work in the business. If they take ownership of it because they feel that they need to be loyal to, they want to be loyal to you because they belong, that they contribute, that they're valued and everything else, they'll work their tails off. If they don't, well, we know in an organization where staff are bullied, the ones who are bullied, their performance will drop 70%. So you're losing that productivity. Wow. But not just that, the bigger thing is if you've got a lot of other people in the organization and those people observe it, and their performance will drop 40%. So across a large organization, it's around about 29-30% of the overall income you can make disappears. And that correlates to the 30% you just said about those executives with the EQ making more money, 30% more money. It's directly related. When you build relationships with people, the end result is that return on relationships will give you a massive return on investment. And so by looking after, it's not about wrapping them in cotton wool and everything else. I'll give you an example. When I was 23, and this is before I had these skills and I was really struggling, I was put in charge of a group of men. My second in charge was 38 and I was 23. One of the other guys was a couple of years older than me, and he had been one of my seniors in Sydney. So everybody in the depot was older than me. And I found getting them on side. Over the years, I was here in Newcastle for around about 16 years. The group had grown and everything else. I orchestrated my own redundancy to get out of Telecom, our national telephone carrier, because I could see the changes that were coming. But when I took redundancy, I had a staff of 13. 6 of the guys there wanted to resign and come with me. Now, we had the highest performance in Australia, because we looked after all the computer links between all the different depots, the banks, the police, and everything else around Australia. And we installed those machines, we maintained them, we had high quality responses, so we had the highest performance in Australia. These guys worked their tail off, but they worked their tail off because they wanted to. Yeah. If somebody was the best person to do, say, a particular project, I put them in charge. And I then became one of the workers in that group. So I became one of the team members, and I got them to run it because they had the skills to do it better than me. And when we got great accolades, or I was getting great accolades for the work that was done, I would just bring them out and say, this is the one who did it, not me. This is my team. And because of that respect and everything else, that allowed me then to, and I've done this in my business outside, it's allowed me to work on my businesses, and therefore other people are doing the work in the business. And it was the same thing. These guys worked their tail off. That's why we had the highest performance. And because I treated them that way, I had their loyalty and they wanted to come with me. It's not rocket science, common sense.
It's not, and again, it comes back to the results. The results speak for themselves. Like just the way they wanted to respond, the way they wanted to follow it, because that love, that high connection, it's powerful. It's irresistible to some level. So I really appreciate you coming out, Alan, and sharing your experiences and opening up and being vulnerable with the different experiences that you've had and sharing them in a real way. For people listening to this, knowing they want more of it, where can they find you?
Oh, best way is just my name. It's alanstevens.com.au. So AU for Australia, but Alan 1L and ALAN and Stevens, STEVENS.com.au. Have a look through there. If you go to that site, Now, what we talked about today, and if I talk about the stuff that I do, I can talk about it all day. But am I any good at it? Go to the little tab that says success stories and hear what other people have said. I've worked with PTSD, with kids with autism, Asperger's, in business, relationships, all the different areas you can think of, because relationships are the foundation of everything we do in life. So if you go in there, you'll see review after review, video review of people talking about what they've achieved by using the skills. And that's the best place to start. And then contact me after that.
So powerful. Yeah, thank you again. And sales ascenders, thank you for watching and listening. And I'm assuming this is going to be as impactful for you as it was for me, if not more. And we will continue. Like, please remember, we are business owners. We are leaders. I know we're all putting ourselves out there. It can turn into a lonely place, but it doesn't have to be. We're all in this together. This is a great community in Sales Ascenders where we can ascend together to new heights, because there is more to discover. There's more relationships to build, and we'd all love to be a part of that journey with you. So stay tuned. We'll be back next week. Have a great rest of your week from now.